Okay, just gonna. Okay, for our agenda today, it's mainly just kind of demonstrations and to show you the setup in Zedmed. So we'll be looking at more of a setup for prescribers. We'll look at the prescribing module, how you prescribe, what pops up on the screen and things like that. And I'll probably be able to kind of highlight a few tips that's useful for your doctors. And then I'll also just discuss the common issues that we come across in terms of prescribing. And we have probably a few minutes at the end to go through a Q&A. I'm just going to share my screen. Oh. Okay, I've just shared my screen, and I'll start by just highlighting a few things around the doctor setup. When you set up a doctor in Zedmed, you go to management, practice setup doctors, find treating doctors. I'm logged in as a doctor called Philip Davis. Now, a few important things in terms of a setup. You've got the doctor's details obviously here, but I just want to highlight a HPII that's required if the doctor is looking to upload My Health Record or prescribe electronically in Zedmed. There's a field there for APRA as well. Qualification is required for prescribing. You've got a prescriber number field, and on the right-hand side, the provider number is set. And if your practice is with ERX, ERX or MediSecure is required to set up for electronic prescribing. If you are with ERX, you'll see an entity ID here. So that's the office side of things. I just wanted to highlight this screen because it's important. The setup here carries through to Zedmed Clinical. Okay, I'm just going to go into clinical now. Before I start prescribing, I just want to point out in clinical, you log in as the prescriber, the doctor, for example. Up the top, you've got tools, my options. And there is an option here, there's a tab here called drug options. So this is where a doctor can actually go in and enable or disable or set up how he or she would like to view the drugs when they prescribe. So they can come here and have a look. They probably would want to include section 100, for example. They might just would like it to default to short term instead of regular. So this is a setup that you can do under your own login in clinical. It is also important on the right-hand side to enable these two boxes on the right. The first one is real-time prescription monitoring. In Victoria, that's for Safescript. New South, that's Safescript as well. And I believe in Queensland, that's QScript. So that must be enabled, and that allows Zedmed to do a pre-check. The second box just below that, that's for electronic prescribing. So under each individual user, this must be enabled. Otherwise, they won't be able to prescribe electronically, and that's part of the setup. So I just wanted to point that out in terms of the setup for doctors. I'm just going to click OK here. The other thing that's important as well is tools, and there's printer setup. You can set up your printer on your own Zedmed. If you go to printer setup, the short key is F5, and you can actually set up which tray the script will be printed from. So that's something that you as a practice can set up. Your IT can assist with that. Okay, now we're going to get into prescribing. And as I go through prescribing, I will cover active ingredient prescribing, and I'll also highlight Safescript, and I'm also going to show electronic prescribing. So I'm just going to bring up a patient and clinical. I'll just click OK. Please note it's a test system, so I'll probably be prescribing I'll be prescribing various drugs under this test patient. So I'm just going to click play to start an encounter. Now, in terms of drugs, as a doctor, if you would like to see current medications, current and non-current, that's already being given to the patient, under summary views, on the left-hand side, you'll see medications, and this is where you can see all the scripts that's been prescribed in the past. And if they can sit under current medications and the doctor can move them, they'll in some patients, you might see them under non-current medications. If I'd like to prescribe a drug, I'll go up to drugs. Mine defaults to prescribe new drug. Sometimes it goes to existing drugs. So either way, you can, if you are under existing drugs, you can actually pick up a drug here and re-prescribe. Otherwise, if we're looking for prescribe for new drug, prescribe new drug. In terms of searching, you can start with or contains text. So either or would do. If you look for a drug and you're unable to find it, you can also select contains text and look and search that way. For this one, I'm going to start with just Moxilin, for example. So it doesn't do smart search, which means you type in, you can just type part of the drug and then hit enter or click find on the right hand side. Now I'll go through my list. Just going to expand this. So I'm looking to prescribe this one. When I select the drug, on the right hand side, what you'll see there, it's the MIMS dosage information, the drug use. And down the bottom here, we also have same class, equivalent. The MIMS product information is down here as well, and it's available to be printed. To prescribe a drug, you just need to highlight what you're looking for and click prescribe. Just before I go to prescribe, I just want to point out as well, any drug you prescribe during this encounter, it'll parked on the left-hand side here down the bottom for printing later. So I'll go through my my prescription and then it'll be parked here for printing. Also, any drug prescribed, it'll be recorded under the current encounter, which is down the bottom here. So to prescribe, I'm gonna double click. You can double click to prescribe. It'll bring us our script detail screen. On the left hand side, you've got your dosage, frequency, instructions. Now, there's various ways to put in the dosage text. You can use the calculator, and I'll just point out a few things. Down the bottom here, medicine estimated to last until this date. It will, the system can calculate this date if you're using the calculator. For example, 2-3 times a day, and as you can see down the bottom, it's already picking up medicine estimated to last until. And I'm going to say as directed, and that's my instructions here. If I clear this, medicine estimated to last date goes back to red, and if I choose to free text, then you can just go in and manually change the date. The other one is also to do with dosage text. If you would like to use the MIMS dosage, it's listed on the right hand side here. You can actually just right click on the instructions here on the right-hand side. I'll just highlight a few lines, for example, and you can right-click, paste to dosage, and that brings that down here. And that's already added. That saves you some time from typing. So that's another way to put in the dosage full text. It defaults to regular use. If you remember from the beginning, we looked at my options, and this is where you actually set the default. It defaults to regular use. Where it's relevant, if you would like to change it, you can change it. You've got your quantity, your repeat, script date, medicine estimated to last, and on the right-hand side, you've got your PBS status. Down the bottom here, the MIMS product information still come through. You can add this to your favorite. This is very handy for specialists. You can, if you're just looking for a list of drugs that you can quickly access, you can add it to favorite. If I add this one to favorite, for example, and I can show you how to access the favorite shortly. You can add to history. This is for, as an example, for new patients who comes to your clinic and they currently taking other medications. You can actually add that to their clinical record. And on the right-hand side, we've got prescribe and prescribe electronically. For this one, I'm going to prescribe. If I prescribe, it's just prescribe to print. And I'll come back and do prescribe electronically shortly. So because I had prescribe, it parks it down here for printing. Okay, so that's the first script. The second one, I'd like to kind of take you through. I want to show you the active ingredient prescribing on a script. And then I'll also mention just a few key points that comes with active ingredient prescribing and Zedmed. So I am looking for Dextan. Oh my God. Okay, so as an example, I've got eye drops. I'm going to select this one. Again, on the right-hand side, you've got the MIMS details. So to prescribe, double-click. And I'll just move that up. So this is my script details. And down the bottom here, there's already a little warning that says recommended to prescribe by brand for practicality and safety. Product is on the list of excluded medicinal items. So this is important. Up the top here, you can see this is what's going to come on the script, the first line. And this pop-up will always come up. Just a few notes around active ingredient prescribing. So prescribers can prescribe drugs either by selecting brand name or by active ingredient. So prescribed by active ingredient, if the medicine is on the recommended list of drugs for brand inclusion of the commission, the prescriber will be reminded to consider the inclusion. So that's why this is already ticked, because it's listed in this list of excluded medicinal items. Just a few other key points as well. So when we're prescribed by brand name, the active ingredient will still appear first with the prescriber when you prompt it. So up the top here, if I untick this, for example, what you'll see is that information change, and that's what's going to come on the script. So if I tick this, it changes back as well. So it's something to keep an eye on as you're prescribing. So that little pop-up, it comes up here for a reason, so just keep an eye out for that. So if I would like to, I'm just going to put in a dosage for this one. If I prescribe electronically, so prescribe electronically, it'll then bring me up a different window. And this is the electronic prescription. On the left-hand side, you've got patient details. Treating doctor details, patient details, your script details. That's on the left. You cannot, but on this stage, you can't actually change it. You can't change anything on the left-hand side. To your right, you can leave a note here for the pharmacist. Route of administration. This information comes from MIMS, from your drug list. Clinical indications, you can put in, say if it's a diagnosis, you can actually put that in. It's a free text field, otherwise it's optional, you can leave that blank. Minimum repeat interval, if it's something that a patient will go back to get a repeat, you can actually specify how many days that so if they can go back and get it after 30 days, for example, and that's for the pharmacy. Warrant number in different states, it's different. Victoria, it's called a warrant number. New South, it's called a permit number. It's different in different states. For certain medications, doctors are required to put in their warrant number on the script, such as Schedule 4, Schedule 8, for example. Unusual dose, the doctor can tick this if the dosage specified is different from what's recommended. You've got script is for urgent supply, script owing. A doctor can send the script via email to a pharmacy if they're owing the pharmacy a script. That's if the patient already picked up the medication and the doctor is sending the script to the pharmacy after that. As you tick script owing, it'll then ask you to put in the pharmacy email address. Please note the script owing, it's not for patients, that's only for pharmacy. To SMS the script token to the patient, select SMS, it's going to automatically pull the phone number on their record, or you can also email and it'll pull the email address on their record. You can obviously overwrite this with your own, with another number or another email address. What's sending to the patient? It's a QR code. It's a link to a QR code. They take that to the pharmacy, scan it, and that's how they get their information. So if I prescribe electronically, it'll then park it on the left-hand side, but the token will be SMS to the patient. Now the print paper token, that's if the patient don't want to take the script, they want to take a QR code. That's just another option that you have in this screen. You can either SMS or email, you can't do both. So if once I click prescribe electronically, the token will be sent. I'm just going to cancel because it's my test system, it's not going to work. So that's electronic prescribing. Just around electronic prescribing, you cannot resend the token electronically. You can only reprint the token to reprint the QR code once it's been prescribed. So the last one I want to show is I want to show you Safescript and what that looks like in Zedmed. So just going to bring up a drug and okay, so see up the top here, I've got an alert, a notification. So as you prescribe, as a doctor prescribe drugs, they requires a Safescript check or a QE-script check. There is a notification banner up the top. If it's red and the doctors just need to click here, it'll then take you to the Safescript portal. You log in with your details and then you go from there. So Zedmed is only notifying you and then it is still going to take you to the Safescript portal to log in. So that's where the Safescript notification comes up. If it was, it gives you different colors. It gives you green. If it's all okay, you're probably going to miss it. It only comes up for 10 seconds and it disappears. So if you miss it, it's all right. It just means it's nothing. If it's amber or red, the notification banner will stay at the top. Now, that's covering, we've covered active prescribing, active ingredient prescribing. We've looked at electronic prescribing and Safescript. And that's the three main things I wanted to cover today. Once a script is parked, you can obviously print it down the bottom here and close out of the screen. In terms of Represcribing, there's kind of like two ways you can Represcribe. If I close out of this screen, when you're looking at a patient record, you can actually just right click under medication. So I'm under summary views, medications tab on the left hand side. You can right click Represcribe. Click yes, it'll take you straight to the script details screen. So that'll come across as well. Otherwise, you can go into drugs, go to existing drugs, right click, and same options comes up. You can make drug non-current from here. And you can also delete drugs that's not here. Early this year, that's when Zedmed upgrade to, we had to be compliant with, because active ingredient prescribing was introduced. So in certain practices, some of your doctors may be complaining because they go and Represcribe and a copy of that script is still sitting there. That is actually happening because the script was issued prior to when your clinic upgrade to the version where it's compliant with active ingredient prescribing. So that's one of the reasons why an old copy of the script will still sit in Zedmed, because that's got the details on the back end is different. So the only way around that at this point, they can actually delete, they can come back and delete a copy of that drug. Yeah, so that's Represcribing. And just one last thing, in your practice, your script detail screen, you can actually do a bit of a cleanup or maybe change the wording here. To edit any of these, you can actually just right click onto this window and update frequency, and you can enter your own. So if you've got doctors who say they don't want once a day, they want it to say daily, you can actually change it. Same in instructions on the right hand side, right click and update. Okay, so I've got some questions coming through. So if you're in SA, I think SA, you're probably just going to have to check with the state in Zedmed. Zedmed's already designed to work with NDE, which is like Safescript. So as long as all okay on your end, then it's just a matter of enabling it here under my options. It's just a matter of enabling this little tick box. So if you're in Queensland, for example, get the doctors to log in, come to my options and tick enable pre-check. For electronic prescribing, we've got a question coming through, how to actually enter how to send it to the pharmacy. So that script owing, that's if the doctor owes the pharmacy a script. And that's basically this field. Just going to put in something here to bypass this window. So script owing is this tick box here. Once you tick it, it's only going to give you the email field. And if you put in a gmail.com, it's not going to go. It needs to be a pharmacy domain mail. That's the only one that's going to be accepted in this field. So that's electronic prescribing. Also with around e-prescribing, the SMS and email, they are sent out by ERX or MediSecure. And that they deliver the token to the patient. I've got a question coming through around the Safescript. So you don't need to log into Safescript all the time as long as the doctors on the browser are already logged in. As you click on that link, it'll just take you there. The version that we're currently using at the moment, the recommended version or our latest version that we've just released is version 33.11, which is down the bottom here. I've got a question coming through. Can we prescribe multiple medications in one step? No. So that's for every script is different. So if I go into this, for example, you fill this out, park it, fill this out, park it. The one thing I just want to show you, you can actually re-prescribe 3 or 4 scripts at one time. So you can highlight the scripts. So highlight, and then you can just right click and re-prescribe. It'll ask you to prescribe the first one, re-prescribe the first one, re-prescribe the second one all in one go. So that's the only time you get to kind of choose different medications is when you re-prescribe. A question around if there's no script owing, but you want to send the script to the pharmacy instead of the patient, do you just select the script owing? No, I think I made it clear earlier. For script owing is only when a prescriber owes the pharmacy a script. It's not if the patient don't want the token. The token still needs to go to the patient if the patient is there. If you don't want to send it to the patient, it'll have to be via email, it'll have to be via SMS, or you print out the extra copy. We don't recommend using script owing to send a patient script to the pharmacy. That's only for that process, for the doctor's process of owing a pharmacy a script. So if I'm just going to go through the Represcribe, the multiple Represcribe. So to Represcribe, you highlight multiple scripts, that is. You select your script, so you can actually click Control, hold down Control and click the various scripts. So I've got 3 scripts that I've selected. Right click and Represcribe, and then it'll come up with, this is Represcribing script number 1, prescribe that. It'll then pop up with another screen to Represcribe script number 2. So that kind of saves time. And that's all the time I have for this afternoon. Thank you for joining. If I didn't get to your question, I do apologize. I will send the answer through out to all the attendees. And also I'll post out the video online tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.